Dragons, I'm back. I'm here to do my February wrap-up part 1. I did wind up getting a bit distracted this month and I didn't do it when I should have in the middle of the month, but I'm gonna probably read about 20 books and I cannot do a full wrap-up because that will take me too long. I'm also not gonna do stats because I didn't update when I should have, so like my stats are a little bit out of order. So when you guys see my wrap-up in a couple of days, I'll do my full stats, but I'm messed up my spreadsheet a little bit so I can't do mid-month wrap-up unless I want to do it statistically, and that will take me too much time. So yeah, I wound up reading 10 books in basically the first half of the month. I just did the first 10, so it may have been like a day or two off, but within the first 14 days of the month, I did wind up reading 10 things, so let's get into it. The first book I wrapped up was one I've been reading for about a year, well, not maybe it's like 6 months, but I'm doing the read-along with Prophecy Radio, and we finished The Last Olympian by Rick Riordan, so that is the wrap-up to the first Percy Jackson series. Here is a photo. I gave this book 5 stars. I love this series. It's one of my favorite middle grade series of all time. I love his writing style. I'm really excited to get to the Heroes of Olympus series. They're not starting that reread for quite a while, so I may do it on my own. I may read it like on my own, but there is a lot more stuff I do want to read, but that is just what I've been reading with them. We read a chapter a week and then they do like a recap episode and I listen to their thoughts. It's super fun. It's run by Karen and Kristen. They do Prophecy Radio and I've been following them for a very, very long time. They were on Hypable and then Hypable shut down and then they started their own site, Subjectified Media. It's just really, really fun. And this is the final book in the Percy Jackson series. And it's one of those series where like just puts a warm hug on your face. I love those characters. I've been following them from so long, so it was just really, really nice. It's a 5-star read. It's always going to be a 5-star read. And probably one of my favorite books in that series, to be very honest. A lot of strings came together and it was able to set up the next book. So yeah, that's a 5-star read for me. The next audiobook that I finished listening to was Falling Embers by Catherine Cowles. I will attach a photo. Second book in the Tattered and Torn series, and I enjoyed this. This is like a second chance brothers best friend romance. I think this was probably one of my favorites. The one thing I will say about this series is that the heroes do come across as very jerkish and very, very like over the top and very, very protective. I don't love that in my heroes. Like they just come across like a little bit like over the top and I don't like it, but I do like this series. So basically this is basically the whole series follows Everly in book 1, which is Tattered Stars. Her dad basically kidnapped this girl and he was sent away. She wound up returning to town and she was taking over this house and she falls for basically the police, like a cop. And then the second book is his younger sister and she falls for his best friend. They've been friends for a while. She's a bit of a daredevil. Her mom in this book is horrible to her though, and I think it's all because of her sister was the one that was kidnapped. I liked it. It was fun. It was quick. It does definitely have a little bit more romantic suspense. Every book in this series does have a romantic suspense element. This one I didn't see coming, which I really liked. I gave it 4 stars. Just the hero wasn't my favorite, but I did like the small town vibes. I like the characters, and then I immediately picked up the next book as my listening, and then I took a break from them. But then the next book I'm going to chat about, which physically was probably one of my favorites of the month so far, is Begin Again by Emma Lord. I really love this book. I love anything that Emma Lord writes. I've read all her books. I've been following her since the pandemic. This one gave me Legally Blonde vibes. And I don't know if it was because I read it on the back or like I actually feel that way, but you basically follow this character named Andy and she winds up moving to this college. She transfers there mid-year, but she doesn't tell her boyfriend because her boyfriend's there and then her boyfriend switches back to like her college and they're separated and she winds up, going through her first year. There's a lot that happens in the story. I don't want to spoil it, but it is set in college and it just felt like a very, very like warm hug in a story. Emma Lord writes very like funny reads with like such an emotional heart. She has a lot of quick banter. There is a romance in here. There is a lot of found family. There is a lot of friendship. There's like I went to a very small liberal arts college and it just gave me a lot of vibes. Like a lot of stuff that happens on my college campus at Wells happened in this book. There was like a secret society element. It was just very, very fun and a lot of self-discovery. So if you like Legally Blonde, I think you'd like this, and I just really enjoyed it and I gave it 5 stars. Definitely a new favorite by Emma Lord. I don't think anything will ever top Tweet Cute, but this may be in the running for second place along with When You Get a Chance, because I really do like all her books. I think she showed that she could change a setting. Still read very YA to me, but I did like how older the characters were. I like the new setting, and I like the dynamics. So this one was a 5-star read for me. And then the next book that I picked up, I believe, was another audiobook. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. Yeah. And that was Hidden Waters, which was also by Catherine Cowles, and that is the third book in the Tattered and Torn series. This one may have been my favorite now that I'm thinking about it, but this one doesn't really have a trope, but it follows Everly's cousin, Addie, and she's the one that was involved in the cult, because like they're all like preppers, and that was what happened, and she wound up getting out of the cult, and she winds up living at Everly's boyfriend's house with his brother, and they wind up having a relationship. If I recall, everything was like forced proximity because they were living together. Again, he was a very aggressive, over-the-top guy. It was okay. I liked her. I thought her mystery element was like the most different and most unique, and I liked it. It was fun. It was a quick read, and also book 2, Falling Embers, was a single dad as well, which I loved. But yeah, it was fun. It was enjoyable, and then I decided to take a little bit of break because I didn't want to get burned out on them. But it was fun. I gave it 4 stars, and I will definitely want to read Shattered Seas soon. And then I had to read a couple of e-arcs for NetGalley. I got approved for some blog tours that I didn't think I was going to. So the next book I read was Duke's Secret Cinderella by Eva Devon. Here is a photo. Going from like all of Catherine Cowles' very similar heroes that just read very, very similar, this was so much fun. I really, really like this book. So you basically follow this main character. I don't remember her name, but she basically is a Cinderella. Like, her mom died, and her dad, oh no, I'm sorry. Her mom died, and she has a stepfather, and her stepfather is very adamant that she only do what he wants, and he wants to get a match, and she has like a stepsister that she's really, really close to, and she wound up meeting this Duke and doesn't tell him her identity. So he kind of goes across thinking she's a lady, she's not a lady, and all this stuff happens. But it was just so cute, and I just love the hero in this story so much. He wasn't overpowering, he wasn't over the top, he was almost like Cinnamon Roll, and I love Cinnamon Roll heroes. That's definitely my favorite trope. There was enough elements that sort of had like a Cinderella aspects to it that I liked. There was side characters that I really enjoyed, and it reminds me of when I read An Offer from a Gentleman, because that was really unique too. This one was unique as well, and I liked it. There was a twist at the end that I did not see coming, and I was like, what is happening? But it was great. I definitely want to go back and read more of Eva Devon in the future, because I haven't read anything, and this is like the 3rd book in a series. I don't think you need to read them in order. I don't think I missed anything, but I felt like it was a solid read. It was a 5-star for me, and it's hard for me to give historicals 5 stars because I don't always love the structure of them, but I really like this, and I gave it 5 stars, and I'm excited to read more by this author in the future. And then the next book I read, which was also a NetGalley arc for the same company, was a arc of Stacey Reid's new book, The Wolf and the Wildflower. Here's a photo of that one. This was probably like the most unique premise of a book that I've ever read, like historical wise. It gave me 12th Night vibes. So you basically follow 2 characters. You follow Jules, and she was born a girl, but because her mom was like really sick and like would have died if she had another baby, they convinced everyone that Jules was a boy and not a girl. She sort of went through her whole life like being treated as a boy and raised as a boy, and that's sort of where we go. And then the next other point of view is this main character who was basically left in the wilderness for like 10 years, and he came back, and you have to like kind of get him used to society, and they kind of work together. However, he realizes she's a girl, and it's their romance. So it was fun. It was very interesting. It gave me like 12th Night vibes meets Arrow vibes. Like, that's kind of the vibes I got. I liked it. I gave it like 4 stars. I thought the end, the first half of it I was really intrigued by, and the second half lost me a little bit, so I'm gonna give it like 4 stars for review. But I definitely think this was my favorite Stacey Reid that I read this month. I read another one that I'll talk about in my other wrap-up, but it was fun, it was enjoyable, really unique premise, and I enjoyed it. So I would definitely read more by this author in the future, and this book surprised me. I didn't think I was gonna like it, but I did like it. It just wasn't a new favorite. And then the next book that I read, I'm so happy my Hoopla finally got these audiobooks, and it's The Lady Gets Lucky by Joanna Shoup. I will attach a photo. This is the second book in the Fifth Avenue Rebel series. It's set in New York. I was told not to read book one. I got book one in like a sale like a couple of months back, so I might go back and read it, but this basically is lessons of seduction. So you follow a main character, and she really wants to be a chef, and her mom is horrible, sort of, and she winds up trying to convince this man at a house party to kind of give her lessons of seduction, so she'll know when a man wants her for her and not for her, you know, lady bits, I'll say, or not for like her money, wants her more for her money and not just to have sex with her. And it is fun. It is a fun time, very, very steamy. You get to see all the other characters that they're gonna get books. I definitely want to read The Bride Goes Rogue because I think that one will be a new favorite of mine. This one was just fun, and it read to me more like Friends to More, which I like because the characters known each other a while. It was great. There was also a lot about a woman's role in society and what a woman can do and what a woman can't do, and I enjoyed it. I know this is people's like favorite historical of all time. I enjoyed it. I gave it like 4.5 stars for review, and I definitely want to read more in this series, and I'll probably read The Harris Hunt because I just like her writing style. And then the next book that I read is my other physical read. I read a lot of ebooks this month, or in this part of it, the month. Then I read 6 Times We Almost Kissed and The One Time We Did by Tessa Sharp. This is a LGBTQ plus romance, and it is definitely hate to more, or hate to more elements to it, but it's one of like the hate to more aspects that I just enjoy. But you follow these two characters, Penny and Tate, and they have always clashed. It's definitely hate to more, but hate to more that I like, and they definitely have a history because their moms are best friends. Tate's mom needs a surgery because she has cancer, and Penny's mom, they're best friends, is gonna donate. So they're forced to live together for like 6 to 8 months as their moms are recovering, and stuff goes from there. I really like this book. It had elements that I really enjoyed. I thought the end of it was a bit rushed, and there was a couple of elements that just, sorry, my puppy's barking because I feel like someone's in the area and she's very, very upset. Yes, it's okay. But I liked it. I think that there was some elements that just fell apart for me. Like, it wasn't as wrapped up as I want. There was a whole plot with like the best friends that I just think didn't get as fleshed out as I wanted. This book does deal with a lot with grief and obviously a parental illness because Tate's mom does have cancer. Penny lost her dad and feels a little bit guilty about that. But I do like the structure of the story because it's told through like past and present timelines. And then you also do get like chats that kind of flesh out the world a little bit. I gave this book 4 stars. I enjoyed it. It was fun. I liked the rep. I thought the characters were unique. I thought the voices at some point were too similar for me to really tell who was who, especially because the situations were very, very similar. But I enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 stars. I think that's the last physical book I read this month, but we are not done, so let's get into it. Sorry, my puppy's barking in the background. I apologize if you could hear that. And then the next audiobook I read in literally a day was Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I will attach a photo. I did not know what I was getting myself involved in when I started this book, but I loved it. I love this book so much. I have other books by Abby Jimenez on my TBR, but this follows a main character, and it's kind of like a reverse Little Mermaid retelling because the boy is the one that lives in the small town. He, you know, is very, like, he's like kind of like a, he has like a B&B, and the girl is like the one from the big city. So it's kind of like a reversed Little Mermaid retelling, but I just loved it. I thought it was so fun. It was a quick read, definitely has small town vibes, and she's like a doctor, and her parents really only want her for one thing, to be like the breadwinner of this family. Her brother got out of this life and is living somewhere else, and she's sort of stuck, and she's sort of doing everything for her mom. But there's a lot of talk about abuse in a lot of different ways, like you know, parental abuse, like when your parents are emotionally abusive to you. Then there's physical abuse, and then she was just got out of an emotionally abusive relationship. So there's a lot of that in it, but it's also just like a small town vibe. Like when she went to the small town, she was a person and not just like her name, and I like that. I love the hero in this story. It was like one of those like breakups that really got me, and I was like, oh, I don't want you to break up. So this is like a third act breakup that kind of killed me a little bit, but I loved it and I just really liked it. I have book 2. I pre-ordered it from Audible so I can get it when it comes out because it's a companion book, so you see the same characters again. I love this book. I gave it 5 stars and I'm really happy that I read it. And I want to go back and read more by Abby Jimenez in the future as well. And then the last book that I am going to chat about in this video is The Witch and the Vampire by Francesca Flores. This doesn't come out till April, I think, but I'm going to talk about it because I just read it. And I wound up giving this one 4 stars for review. I have read books by this author in the before. I read Diamond City, and I didn't love it as much. My review said I really liked it, but I remember when I read it, I didn't love it as much, so I didn't wind up finishing it. This book I like, so I have a thing about vampires. I don't love books about vampires just because I don't think that they're done really well, and I struggle with them. I blame Twilight. I do. I'm sorry, I just blame Twilight. But this book was really interesting. So it's basically like a Rapunzel retelling sort of on its head. You have 2 girls, you have a witch, and then a witch gets turned into a vampire, and they have to go on an adventure. And they're forced to work together. It's definitely hate to more, but they have like a friendship basic, and I really liked it. There was a forest involved. It was a quick read. These characters felt more unique to me and more different than I read 6 Times We Almost Kissed. I thought they were really solid characters. It was a standalone, which you don't ever get. I really liked it. If you're looking for kind of like hate to more vibes, like they were friends, something happened, and then they go there. I've read so many books this month with that trope that I love. If you want to see a recommendation video, let me know in the comments. But yeah, those are the 10 books that I've read. I really had a pretty good reading month. I didn't have anything that I really hated. I had books that like let me down a little bit, but nothing shocking. And I will see you guys shortly for the end of my February reading wrap up, and I'll talk to you guys soon for another video. Bye, book dragons.